The sun rises, the sun sets. We go to work, we go to school, life can be dull. But not if you're a hoaxer.
Tonight, take a journey with me as I guide you through a made-up world of lost tribes, Hitler diaries, newspaper nonsense, and some of my proper hoaxing heroes.
I've got the silly. I've got the mysterious.
Well, I said to Dave, I said, we're the only two human beings on the whole of this planet that's doing this.
I've got the utterly terrifying. So is Bigfoot watching us now?
Very possibly right behind your shoulder.
And I meet my heroes. You're a legend.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
By the end, you'll know how to pull off the perfect hoax. And so will I. So, let's begin. Hello, my name is Harold Goodman. I was born in 1929 to London's only female butcher. I'm a very old man indeed. Of course I'm not. My name's Danny Wallace, and Harold Goodman is a man I made up when I was 15, when I'd pretend to be an angry pensioner and write furious letters complaining about the youth of today and their unnatural obsessions to my local newspaper. It was my first baby step into the world of hoaxing. Dozens of local, usually racist pensioners wrote to me to passionately pledge their allegiances to my cause. But sadly, Harold Goodman died in 1998 after reading a copy of the Daily Mail. Now, that's a rubbish hoax, but I'm telling you about mine only so you'll know how much I love hoaxes, how I long to be part of that world. And that, my friends, is why I've spent so much time compiling the definitive list of the 19 greatest ever hoaxes. Why 19? Because there are only 19 greatest ever hoaxes. This isn't just some list show where we wheel out Kate Lawler to talk about clips she's never seen before. This is proper. I am an expert. Look at this.
When it comes to hoaxing, Danny Wallace knows exactly what he's talking about, far more than I do. I mean, I don't even exist.
Sadly, Professor Llewellyn died in 1998. Right. Let's get this one out of the way right now. Number 19 is the Loch Ness Monster.
It stood 2 or 3 feet out of the water, 4 or 5 feet across.
The head was growing like that. Quite... whoa. Fantastic.
Now, you may have thought this would get to number 1, but no, that would be boring. The Loch Ness Monster is a masterstroke of hoaxery, first sighted by St. Columba in the 7th century.
Yes, yes.
It wasn't until 1934 that anyone thought to take a picture of it. This picture. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that looks like a slightly rubbish toy submarine with a fake headstock on top. And you would be right. For years, Nessie hunters clung to the hope that this was a genuine photo of a genuine monster.
But in 1994, the man who took the photo came clean.
A retired film cameraman, Christian Sperling, admitted shortly before he died that he built a model to persuade the nation the monster existed.
This was just a small clockwork toy submarine which had a model head and neck built up onto the conning tower, and then it was photographed at Loch Ness.
It was a hoax. Who'd have thought it? A monster not being real. But this was a classic hoax, and here's why. Like all the best hoaxes, it deliberately set out to fool the public and succeeded by giving them something they really wanted to believe. It created an iconic image that lasted for 60 years, and even today, some people still believe in it.
A live creature.
In excess of 43 feet.
Reddish brown. 30 feet at least.
I mean, a mere 20 feet.
A live creature.
A monster in a lake in Scotland with no way in or out, that's been alive for over 1,000 years and only been seen twice. Once by a saint, and then 1,400 years later by a self-confessed fraudster. You can see why so many people believe in it. But that is exactly why it's brilliant.
Now, as well as deciding once and for all on the world's greatest hoaxes, I also aim to learn from the masters, so that by the end of this show, I can try a little hoax all my own. At number 18, my first hoaxing hero. And to meet him, I travelled to New York, which back in the 1950s was home to famous abstract artists like Jackson Pollock and Franz Klein, and also to a rather less-known painter by the name of Nat Tate.
It's a Nat Tate.
I see that Nat Tate has signed it.
Yeah?
That name is not familiar to me.
Not familiar? I'm from London.
Oh, lovely. She's walking away.
She's walking away. She hates London. Oh, fair enough. Do you like it?
No.
No. You won't find that in there. You'll only find it right here. What if I told you this was worth in the region of $250,000?
I'd tell you society is
Right, fair enough. We may have to bleep that. It's an original. It's a Nat Tate original.
Nat Tate?
Nat Tate. Shall I tell you something a little bit more about Nat Tate? Right, well, watch this little film here.
What?
No, that's cool, because then, in the show,
Oh, all right.
I do that, and then we'll play the film. And it's like, oh, you see? Clever. Thinking on my feet.
It's not surprising Nat Tate's been forgotten. But things were different in 1998. On the trendy Upper East Side, the great and the good of the Big Apple's art scene gathered for a special book launch. People were especially excited when David Bowie sat down to read an extract.
It was late afternoon, I was hot, I was tired, and I wandered past dozens of unremarkable drawings and sketches.
It was no wonder Bowie was nervous. This was an important book. It was the first ever biography of one of New York's unsung art heroes, tortured genius Nat Tate. As Bowie read from the book by William Boyd, everyone nodded and murmured appreciatively. They all agreed that Nat Tate was the bestest artist ever and swapped anecdotes about what his work meant to them. The only trouble was, Nat Tate was rubbish. Not a rubbish artist, just a load of rubbish. He didn't exist. He'd never existed, except in the mind of one of my all-time favourite hoaxers.
William Boyd, it is a pleasure to meet you. Officially, one of the world's greatest hoaxers.
So it would seem.
Yeah, I say officially. It's my list, to be honest, but that's official enough for me. You're the man behind Nat Tate.
Yep, that's right.
How did that happen?
Well, there was quite a serious literary point. I wanted to create something that was totally made up, but had all the apparatus of a real life. So I wrote and created a beautiful little book celebrating the short, tragic life of Nat Tate, and off we went.
The book captured the imagination of the sensation-seeking New York art scene because it was flawless. Boyd had made Nat Tate's life utterly believable. First, the book was packed with photos of Nat Tate and his family. Photos that William Boyd had simply lifted out of a photo album which he randomly bought in Belgium. Plus, in the book's narrative, Boyd placed Tate at the centre of something very real, the hard-living 1950s New York art scene. And then, the masterstroke. Boyd roped in some famous friends to vouch for Nat Tate.
What I did was I got two friends of mine to reminisce about Nat. One of them was Gore Vidal, the American novelist, and another one was a man called John Richardson, who is the biographer of Picasso. So you're reading the book and you think, well, maybe Boyd is telling the truth, because surely John Richardson wouldn't lie. And then Gore Vidal, a few pages further on, says, yes, I remember Nat. He had a brief affair with Peggy Guggenheim, you know, the famous collector. Nice boy, not very bright, drank too much. And again, that just adds to the whole verisimilitude.
First of all, I'm going to look that word up, and then I'll use it.
What really sealed the hoax was Boyd's ability to call on old friend David Bowie to help. Apart from reading an extract at the New York launch, Bowie proudly declared that he was lucky enough to be one of the only people in the world to own an actual Nat Tate painting. And there are only a handful of Nat Tate paintings left. Because Boyd and Bowie made sure everyone knew that Tate had destroyed nearly everything he'd ever done, as we are demonstrating here in this dramatic and touching reconstruction. It's half the budget there. And just 2 days after burning all his work, the world would be robbed of Nat Tate's talent forever.
Now we move to the darker side
Yeah.
of Nat's life. How did he come to this?
Well, apparently...
If you can talk about it.
I can.
Yeah?
I get a bit choked
We can
up.
take a break.
No,
we get some water for William.
I'm all right.
You're all right.
Yeah. Nat Tate jumped off the Staten Island ferry. Symbolic, because in his work there's a lot of references to bridges. He's heading back to where he was born, New Jersey, and halfway over, He jumped off the back railing of the Staten Island ferry.
Boyd effectively pushed Tate into the Houston River, killing him off forever. But the hoax was just coming to life. The Sunday Telegraph serialised the biography, and Boyd hit the media circuit to talk about Tate's legacy. But someone who'd been at the book launch had smelled a rat. They were on to William Boyd.
I have to admit, this whole thing started with a bit of eavesdropping. I was sitting in a hotel bar and I overheard two of the people who were in the know, I think one of them was a legal advisor, saying something like, we've really got to hope that nobody finds out about this. And that was all. So I didn't quite know what they were talking about. And then the day after that, I began to do some investigation. I went to the gallery, the Alice Singer Gallery on 57th Street, where William Boyd said he'd first spotted Nat Tate's work. And 57th Street was indeed there, but the Alice Singer Gallery wasn't, and nor were any of the other galleries in the book. So by then, I began to think, I've got a story here.
Just days after the launch of the Nat Tate biography, David Lister's slightly annoying scoop hit the front page, and the Nat Tate hoax was no more. But it was still such a convincing and well-executed hoax that I decided to ask William Boyd for a top hoaxing tip.
It's unbelievable what you can do with a caption.
A caption?
Yeah, a caption to a photograph. You put Nat Tate in London 1955, this anonymous man suddenly is in a place and a time and is named. And if the book looks good, which it does, you buy it completely.
OK, so that's interesting. So captions and anything that looks like it was published or looks like it a third person. I have to say as well, while I stand here, I mean, I don't usually do this with my hands, but I've been doing it most of the way, and I've noticed you have as well. This is like an art gallery thing.
Yeah.
I feel very intellectual right now. We've both been walking along going, yeah, no, I agree. That's very good
Fingertips touching.
Exactly.
But there's still the matter of where the artwork came from. Critics had loved the fictional artist's work. So who did it?
You see, it was William Boyd all along.
There you go.
That's for me. Yeah. That's the latest Nat Tate.
Yeah.
And when does this date from?
Late 50s.
Late 50s, amazing. Thank you very much. Pleasure.
At number 17, what happens when you're a millionaire with a bit too much time on your hands? Well, if you're like this man on the left, Australia's answer to Richard Branson, Dick Smith, you claim you're going off to Antarctica to lasso an iceberg and tow it back with a tiny barge.
We'd have to make sure it wasn't too deep an iceberg because there'll be difficulty of getting it into Sydney Harbour, and there's also, with some of the bigger icebergs, they can't come in over the continental shelf.
Everyone thought Dick Smith was mad until April 1st, 1978, when he turned up at Sydney Harbour with a huge iceberg, the Dickenberg 1. Australia's upper classes turned out to celebrate this marvellous achievement. Excited and proud, they chanted the name Dick Smith until it started to rain, at which point they just started chanting Dick instead. I mean, look at it. It's clearly just 10 boxes covered in a white sheet. But that is what's so brilliant about it. This hoax wasn't about the iceberg. It was about how Dick Smith convinced Australia that he was going to tow an iceberg into Sydney, then sell it to them in tiny pieces.
I plan to cut the iceberg up and sell it for ice cubes, call them Dixicles and sell them for drinks and everything, and I think there'll be a bit of money in it.
Well, do you reckon that the surviving mass of the ice will be sufficient to make enough Dixicles to make a profit?
Well, certainly, we only have to get, say, 1 million Dixicles, and that's $100,000 worth, and 1 million little ice cubes is not very much.
Dick Smith had done it. He'd successfully sold the idea of Dixicles to the Aussies. And speaking of selling a preposterous idea... At number 16, the day they literally made up a Whopper.
Since they started in 1954 in Florida, the Burger King Corporation have sold more than 1 million hamburgers. But in 1998, they took things one step further and announced a new kind of burger, a burger tailored to a very specific section of society.
Hi.
Hello. I'm trying to find... Do you do the left-handed Whopper?
The left-handed Whopper?
The left-handed Whopper, yeah.
I have no idea what that is. What is it? Maybe you can do it.
Yeah, it's basically, it's a Whopper.
Yes, a left-handed Whopper. Launched by Burger King on March the 31st, 1998, the left-handed Whopper was just like a normal Whopper, but with all the ingredients rotated 180 degrees.
Most of the toppings are round, so if you change them, they wouldn't change.
They wouldn't.
It wouldn't make any difference.
Is there any way we can try it so I could get a Whopper made but slightly skew-if?
about how...
Trying to think about how it could be done.
How it could be done and how it could tell the
Yeah.
hoax to do that.
Before Burger King admitted to the hoax the next day, thousands of Americans had already requested the new left-handed burger. More worryingly, others had insisted on the right-handed version. Still, that's America for you. They still think they landed on the moon. You know what it's like, you're trying to eat the burger with your left hand. Your skull gets a bit messy.
I'm ambidextrous.
Fans of Beatrix Potter might want to leave the room now. Because of our next hoaxer, the woman who gave birth to rabbits.
Now, you'd have thought that in 1726, when a lady named Mary Toft announced that she'd started giving birth to small rabbits, someone would have said, no, ye are clearly mental. But no one did. They simply asked her to pop one out, and she obliged. In fact, after being examined by the king's doctor, she was pronounced a medical marvel. Later, of course, it turned out that she was not a medical marvel. It turned out she was a woman desperate for attention who, when no one was looking, was simply inserting small rabbits inside herself and squeezing them out to order.
But please, don't think badly of poor old Mary Toft and her internal hutch. She was a woman desperate to trick the world. Desperate to get in the papers. She was our first pointless celebrity, so keen to get into an 18th century version of Heat that she didn't worry about national humiliation. Without her, would we have had Rebecca Luce? Would we have had Club Reps Uncut? Put down your prejudice. We've got plenty to thank that woman for. See you after the break for more rabbits, an ape man, a large, limping, sticky woman, and more top hoaxes. Honest. Hello, welcome back to my Hoax Files, my personal guide to the world's greatest hoaxes. Already we've had a Scottish monster, an Australian iceberg, a fictional burger, and an 18th century lady who did for rabbits what certain Thailand entertainers have done for table tennis.
So, what's at number 14?
On April 21st, 1980, a 23-year-old named Rosie Ruiz surprised the world by winning the Boston Marathon. Now, it was surprising because no one had ever heard of her before, but somehow she managed to secure the third fastest ever time recorded for a female runner. And what's more, she seemed to have done it without even breaking a sweat.
The mystery of the unknown, record-breaking, non-sweating marathon winner started 6 months earlier on the day of the New York Marathon on the subway.
I walked into the car, and it was about mostly full, you know, but there was a woman, a runner, clearly, with a number, and her clothes on, and her sneakers, and she had her head down like this. And I thought, oh my God, she got injured. And that was my immediate thought. And so I sat down. There was a space next to her, and I sat down.
That woman in the running gear was the soon-to-be infamous Rosie Ruiz.
So then all of a sudden, we're into the ride, and she said to me, do you know what time it is? And I said, no, I don't have a watch, but what happened to you? And she said she sprained her ankle at the 10-mile point. So I said, oh, that's a drag. I've never seen a marathon before. I'm going up to the finish line to see the end because I have a friend who's a runner. She said, well, I want to go there too for medical help.
The finishing line of the 1979 New York Marathon was in Central Park, and that's where Susan and Rosie Ruiz headed that sunny autumn afternoon. And in the park, Rosie stopped to buy a drink.
She bought a soda, and I believe it was a Gatorade or a Coke or something sweet and gooey. And she drank a little bit as we were walking, and then she poured some on her head.
She bought a fizzy carbonated drink and poured it over her head.
Oh, it's so.
That is a bit strange, isn't it?
Mm.
It's not the first time an athlete has sweated Coke, though. But that's that's for another day.
Susan and a rather sticky Rosie Ruiz went their separate ways in Central Park. Susan thought that was the last she'd ever see of her. But 6 months later, while watching the Boston Marathon on TV...
And the woman who has shocked the marathoning world with her performance here today, Rosie Ruiz from New York City, heading down Parapet Street for what appears to be a new American record time.
The first thing I see in the marathon is Rosie Ruiz jumping up and down, giving the V sign.
The same Rosie Ruiz that Susan had left in Central Park 6 months earlier, covered in sticky pop, had just won the Boston Marathon and smashed the women's record. But her incredible performance immediately aroused suspicion.
People are all saying, this woman, nobody's ever heard of her.
She was probably, when she was doing this,
doing that,
she was actually going, I won. You know, slightly sarcastically taking the mickey out of herself. Yeah, I won the marathon, honestly.
You're right, in quotes.
Probably what she's doing.
Rosie, what kind of training have you been doing? You say 65 to 70 miles a week. Have you been doing a lot of heavy intervals?
Someone else asked me that. I'm not sure what intervals are. What are they?
So she had to ask a stranger what an interval was, pretty damning for a runner. Then there was her unique running style, more like a chimp than a champ. Plus, no one had ever heard of her. Race checkpoints had no record of her, and not one of the course's 400 photographers had captured even a single still image of her during the whole race. But Rosie still insisted she had won.
I'm interested in what I'm doing.
If a newspaper said, okay, we'll set this up, if you'll just run it again, would you be willing to do that?
I am not going to run a course for the New York Road Runners Club.
Not even to prove yourself innocent? Not even to...
I don't have to prove myself innocent to anyone because I know that I ran it.
We went over that before, sir, and I'll answer that question for her. She ran 26 miles.
26 miles?
Running next Sunday.
And what did he...
Susan Morrow was watching events unfold on her TV in New York. She decided she'd better contact the race organizer and tell him about her encounter with Rosie 6 months earlier.
He wanted to know from me what Rosie Ruiz looked like.
And what did you say? She's a limping... kind of, she's this limping, sweaty, kind of...
Sticky.
She's got this very sticky woman, a very limping, sticky woman who can't run. Is that what you said? She doesn't sound like your typical athlete. She might as well have had some dark glasses and a white stick. I'm just expecting that
now. As a blind woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Miss Garreau is shown clearly as the first woman runner. Miss Rosie Ruiz does not appear in the photo sequence. Her number does not appear on any of our checklists. We have decided, therefore, that the order of finish be adjusted and that Miss Garreau be recognized as the 1980 Women's Champion.
Rosie Ruiz was stripped of her Boston Marathon title. It emerged that she joined the race 300 meters from the finish. This, it turned out, was a tried and tested formula for Rosie. In fact, after she'd poured Coke over her head in Central Park 6 months earlier, she'd waited for Susan to get out of sight and then jumped over the barrier and started running in the New York Marathon. Amazingly, she'd managed to come 23rd that day simply by travelling all but half a mile of the marathon on the subway with Susan Morrow.
You've got to have some admiration for someone who would do that. Even in the weirdest way, you know it's wrong,
it's
but...
chutzpah.
Yeah, exactly, it's chutzpah. It's
Pure
kind of...
chutzpah.
Yeah, balls, as we call them.
That's right. Correct.
At number 13. Discovered in 1912 in a Sussex gravel pit, the bones of Piltdown Man rocked the scientific world. It was a skull with the high forehead of a man, but the jawbone of an ape. In other words, the missing link had just been found. Here's an artist's impression, and here are two posh men discussing it.
Well, frankly, the ape-jawed Piltdown man was a great embarrassment to scientists because it did not fit in.
Of course it didn't fit in. It was a hoax. The bones had been placed there by the zoologist Martin Hinton, a kind of Edwardian Boris Johnson, who then discovered them and became massively famous.
Hinton took these bones, which were several hundred years old, part human, part orangutan, stained them with chemicals and pretended they were millions of years old. One really was a fossil, but he carved it like a cricket bat to add to the joke.
That's right. In 1918, Hinton revealed to the world that cricket was actually millions of years old. Despite this, the Piltdown Man hoax wasn't found out for 40 years. At number 12... It's all ghosts. Clearly. Come on, they're not real. Move on. In 1967, two cowboys, Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson, filmed something incredible near a creek in Northern California.
It walked directly away from us at just a slow stroll, just like a man would be walking away from something downtown. And it had huge, bulky muscles. An overall description, it looked like a huge, hairy human being.
The Patterson footage caused a sensation. Bigfoot was born, and with it, slightly odd foreign Bigfoot hunters.
I'm looking for the creature now which makes the footprints, and I will keep on searching till I find the damn thing.
One shoemaker estimates that the owner of these feet would need a shoe size 21, 13 sizes wider than the biggest now on the market.
Since that day in 1967, hundreds of people have reported seeing Bigfoot. And in all that time, no scientist, no film technician could prove that the Patterson footage was a hoax.
Bigfoot believers believe that Bigfoot could be a man-ape.
A mape? A
man-ape. Both a man and an ape.
A mape.
Oh, a mape. I'm sorry. Yeah. That's great. I didn't... That could be used.
You can have that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, the Patterson footage, that's the only kind of known existing footage of Bigfoot?
Yes. It's the holy grail of Bigfootery.
Bigfootery.
You know, Bigfootery. It's an idol. It's a god. You know, it's the thing. It's the evidence. You know, they say this is the evidence. This is the evidence.
Evidence which suggests that Bigfoot is an 8-foot-tall mape, my word, weighing between 300 and 500 pounds. According to witnesses, he smells and he screams like a lady. A huge lady.
You wouldn't invite him to a dinner party, would you?
Absolutely.
This stinking, screaming, hairy man. Do you know what I mean? Why are we fascinated with him then?
Well, I think we're always fascinated with the unknown. We've been fascinated with, you know, monsters, ghosts. This goes back for, you know, millennia, this interest in unknown things. And so Bigfoot is simply like a modern-day monster.
It looked like Greg was the closest I was going to come to meeting a Bigfoot.
You just have to open your eyes. It's like opening your third eye.
Right.
Like opening your spiritual eye.
I knew what Greg meant. I didn't really. But I would have liked to have met a Bigfoot, more than finding Nessie, a left-handed Whopper, or a cheating marathon runner. But having met Greg, I felt there could be a Bigfoot round the corner. He said I had to open my third eye. People have been calling me Four Eyes for years. And then I found him.
My name is Bob Hieronymus, and I am Bigfoot.
It's true.
And it is true. He is Bigfoot. In 2005, that man, Bob Hieronymus, came forward to tell the world proudly that it was him that had donned a gorilla suit and played Bigfoot. However, Bob's new acting role was no walk in the park.
You had the kind of monkey man breasts. You had a kind of weird leather face. You know.
Yeah, he modified the face, cut the original face that Philip Morris had made, and cut it out and put I think it was horsehide he put across there. And
Really?
he cut the eye holes and made the nose.
That's not pleasant, is it?
Well,
For a start, monkey man breast, but then also
stunk a little bit.
horse's arse on your face. That's not good.
No, that's the way it was, you know. That's
in those days. But I tell you what I really am impressed by, and the kind of the genius that you brought to the role, because you had to get into the role, was this moment where you're walking, and then it's the look.
Yeah. All the so-called scientists and those type people, there's no way in hell a human being could walk like that and turn and look, you know,
there is no way.
without turning your torso.
So they said that. They said there is no way a man could do
could
this.
do that, yes.
Well, you proved them wrong, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
I'm fairly sure I could walk like that.
You could do it.
Could I?
Right.
So, how do I look?
Well, similar.
Yeah?
It needs quite a lot of work, but it's just a simulation, so it's not the real one.
It's just a start, you know.
Right.
I think it'll...
Right.
When I get into the role a bit more, obviously, you'll look past this and you'll just see what I bring to it.
I'll just tell you how they told me to walk and...
Perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure you swing your arms.
It's like a happy cowboy.
Longer strides.
Bit more?
Yeah, swing them arms. No, you're bending your legs too much. You're squatting down. Take long strides. There you go. That's close enough.
I was clearly a brilliant Bigfoot. My walk still needed some work, though. I needed to meet someone who actually believes that Bigfoot is real. Paranormal investigator John Backyard says that not only has he seen a Bigfoot, but a Bigfoot has seen him.
I've been out with Chris on camping trips, my erotic artist friend, and we've gotten images of Bigfoot looking at us.
Right.
When we were alone.
When you were just sitting around?
More or less.
I'm seeing a twinkle in your eye there.
I can't say any further than that.
So you were alone doing who knows what, and Bigfoot turned up?
Yes.
The thing is, the Bigfoot phenomenon has got a reputation around the world as being not real, you know, as being up there with the kind of the Loch Ness Monster.
With whom?
Well, with I would say, the layman.
Have you asked the youth of America?
All
Have
of
you asked the youth of Britain?
Well, I know a lot of them, and they would certainly tell me that.
Codswallop, huh?
That's probably what they'd say.
They say that about Nessie, but I filmed Nessie, so I know it's not so.
You filmed Nessie?
Yes.
So you've seen Nessie and a Bigfoot?
And I've been in crop circles, and I've seen UFOs.
And you've seen a UFO, you've seen Nessie, you've seen a Bigfoot?
5 times.
So you've seen, was it the same Bigfoot, or was it different big feet?
Different ones in different locations.
Right.
And I found...
Unfortunately, John had forgotten to bring any evidence of his amazing sightings whatsoever. So I challenged him to convince me that the only evidence we had to hand, the Patterson footage, is real.
So there's Bigfoot there?
Right. He goes off in the woods, goes through some woods, comes out the other side, and proceeds onward until he gets to a bank and then turns right. And I ask you, what do you think?
It looks like a man in a gorilla suit. It really does. I mean, that looks like something you'd rent from a fancy dress outfit costume.
Can you prove that?
Well, actually, yes. Yes, I can. This is the latest Bigfoot evidence just released by me. Filmed by Bigfoot, starring Bigfoot. The Wallace footage.
People still believe, you know, that Bigfoot is real. There are plenty of people who are going, this film is conclusive evidence that there is a big ape man running around the forests.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to them?
I say they're dreamers. Right. If there's one Bigfoot, there's got to be hundreds of them, if they're out there.
Which they're not.
Which they're not.
Because they're all you.
That was me. Did a good job. Go ahead and get out of it if you want.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, you betcha.
Cheers. Bob Hieronymus, a hoaxing legend.
Now, you probably thought Bigfoot would have at least made the top 10. He hasn't. But Jesus Christ, this man has!
You can't call yourself a redneck in America these days if you haven't seen the face of Jesus in a piece of toast or a plate of beans. But medieval Europeans were at it years ago with the Turin Shroud. For centuries thought to be the very shroud that wrapped Jesus in the tomb. There's just one small problem. You see, Jesus, he hails from around the year 0. We know that. It's in a book my nan gave me. But the Turin Shroud, thanks to carbon dating, we know dates from the 1300s. It is, I'm afraid, a hoax. Oh. the people of the Earth were stunned in 1920 to learn that fairies were real. Definitely they were. The proof? 5 photographs clearly showing 2 young girls frolicking innocently with a bunch of fairies. Instantly, the world knew one thing. Either those dancing winged figures were fairies, or that girl was bloody massive.
Word of the fairy photo spread quickly. The 2 girls, Frances and Elsie, insisted that Cottingley Glen was rife with fairies, kind of old-fashioned Hampstead Heath. The photos were studied by the clever people at Kodak, who confirmed that there was no elaborate photo trickery whatsoever. Even Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, one of the great minds of the age, decided that yes, the photos were genuine. But not everyone was convinced. In 1978, experts concluded that because the fairies' wings weren't blurry enough, they couldn't have been beating very quickly when the photo was taken. Nowhere near quickly enough to be real fairies, said the experts. But even into old age, the 2 girls insisted the photos were real. It was only in 1981 that they finally came clean. It was a hoax. But how had they done it?
We, with the long hat pin, we put it down the back like that and stuck the tape at the back like that and then wormed that down into the earth. They said that the thing was that they could see that the fairies were moving when the photograph was taken, but that's because they dithered in the breeze.
The girls had come clean about their dithering fairies. But there was just one more thing. They insisted they'd only faked 4 of the pictures. The 5th, they said, was completely real. And I, for one, definitely believe them. Join me after the break for more of the world's top hoaxes, including miniature horses.
You know what? They have pony paints. You can make them pink for parties.
A doomed, fluffy rabbit.
Would you do it? Would you kill Toby?
And my slightly odd encounter with the world's greatest hoaxer.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Thank you. Hello and welcome back to my Hoax Files, where already tonight we've seen left-handed burgers,
sticky marathon winner, a Bigfoot in trainers, and a non-existent artist who couldn't swim. Now at number 8.
modern-day Merlin, or a man with a beard who's perfected the art of the hoax.
Tonight, I shall play Russian roulette, live in this barn behind me. 1 gun, 1 bullet, and every intention of being alive at the end of the show. As ever, no actors or stooges are used in making this program.
The show went out live on Channel 4 on October the 5th, 2003. The premise was simple. Darren Brown would use his magic powers to select one person from the studio to load a gun with a single bullet.
James, it's going to be you.
In a dimly lit barn somewhere on the island of Jersey, James selected 1 bullet from 50 and loaded the revolver.
Right.
Viewers watched in delighted horror as Darren proceeded to play Russia's best-loved parlor game. Three million viewers believed that Darren Brown had risked a live bullet. But guess what?
Can you confirm, Lenny, that all of the bullets that were used in the gun were in fact blanks to fit in with Jersey law against handguns?
Yes, I mean, a permit was issued for these props to come on the island. A number of props were brought onto the island for filming purposes, and amongst them were 50 rounds of blank ammunition.
Right. You've been unearthed by Lenny.
No, it makes absolute sense. I completely accept that.
It turns out there are rules about men shooting themselves in the head on television, and in the end, the Jersey police turned out to be real sticklers for these rules. A pity for Darren, some would say, for 3 million viewers, but not for anyone who loves hoaxes.
Now, celebrity trends come and go, from inserting hoses where hoses should never be inserted, to injecting poison directly into the face so you can look like you've had a stroke. Those crazy celebrities love nothing more than setting a trend, no matter how odd. And none was odder than the must-have fashion accessory for 1 month in 2002. Miniature horses.
I noticed in the press this week, I don't know if you saw it or not, but miniature horses are very much the celebrity accessory at the moment. Have you
They're
seen that?
Shetland ponies, aren't they? Miniature
No,
horses.
I think they're even smaller than that.
Gone is the snakeskin handbag. What you need now is something real. I've chosen Edie today because she matches my outfit. I do have 2 more. You know what? They have pony paints. You can make them pink for parties without
Yes,
ruining
for a
their
brief period in 2002, the world of celebrity rocked to the sound of tiny hooves.
When I saw Tara Palmer-Tomkinson with the small horse, I mean, basically, it was brilliant for us. We ran loads of pictures of her headline, Tara's New Man. It was great, and loads of magazines picked up on it, and then we saw lots of celebs following the trend.
At the beginning, it was like, wow, I'm gonna have a miniature horse. This is gonna be wicked. I can go out in the park with it. I can take it running. It would give me a chance to, exercise. And all my friends, no, none of my friends have got miniature horses. They've all got puppies, and like now I've got a miniature horse.
Suddenly, thanks in part to Tara, tiny horses were the new must-have celebrity accessory.
You know, they're really good temperament. They're very soft, very good companions, very loyal, and they are the must-have thing.
The shops agreed. One major store in particular was lightning out of the traps in spotting an odds-on sales winner, miniature horse accessories.
At Harrods, we have miniature riding crops. We have miniature polo mallets. We also have these beautiful plaited chokers for the female horse, and a bit more bling for the stallion with the chunky choker, and all the regular requirements that you need for your miniature horse.
As well as Tara, there were reports that the likes of Kate Moss and Jennifer Aniston were seeking a new little friend. Miniature horse breeders weren't happy.
I'm obviously very concerned that they should consider buying any living creature to use as an ornament or as a fashion accessory. I have heard reports of animals living in people's back gardens and even being brought into the house, most importantly living on their own, and I'm just very concerned about what might happen to them if the fashion turns to something else and they're discarded.
What Wendy and the rest of the world didn't know was the entire miniature horse craze was a hoax dreamed up by Tara and PR guru Mark Bulkowski. Tara was annoyed that the media had branded her a pointless celebrity. What she and Mark proved was that the media will report on anything, no matter how pointless, that it's their fault, not hers.
One thing you understand about the media love pictures with animals. There's nothing better than a cute little pony with a cute little Tara Palmer-Tomkinson. It is believable, so I said, why don't we get her supporting miniature ponies? It could be her own trend. Frankly, I was astonished about the take-up to this.
I thought it was great. When I found out this was a hoax, it was so funny. I mean, we were all duped. Even magazines were duped. It was brilliant, and TPT has got her own back on a lot of people, so I thought it was a really good thing to do.
Which just goes to show you can't believe everything you see on TV.
And number 6, a rabbit in a bit of a stew.
The internet, home to unsubstantiated rumour and the factually dubious. Now, the internet is not a hoax. It is real. I've got one in my computer. But in recent years, it's become a breeding ground for the probably not quite true. But no website caused as much uproar amongst animal lovers than the one I'm about to reveal. SaveToby.com.
The Save Toby website appeared in 2004. The message on the site is terrifyingly clear. If Toby's owners don't receive $50,000 into their account by November 2006, they will kill Toby and eat him. To date, they've received $40,000. But is Save Toby a hoax worthy of my list, or is it merely a heartless scam? I tracked down the bunny boilers to West Virginia to find out.
Brian, James, thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I know that anonymity is important to you, so I've guaranteed that. I guess what I want to first of... That was me, sorry. That was me, sorry. Well, we can edit that out. Okay. Brian, James, thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Now, I have personally guaranteed your anonymity. That's why you're in the shade, but we're here for a very special reason, aren't we?
We are. Yes.
We're here to talk about Toby.
That's right.
Now, this isn't Toby. This is merely a visual representation of a rabbit to help us as we talk about the story. But you're claiming to have the best of intentions for Toby.
And we do.
There's always been outcry, but there's also been a lot of support. Originally, we had made the website to collect $50,000, which we were going to use to make Toby the happiest bunny on the planet.
And that's genuine. You were gonna use that $50,000 not for frat parties. I've seen Old School and all those films. I've seen American Pie. I know what you get up to over here. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So you weren't going to spend it on kegs of beer?
Absolutely not. Unless that was Toby's desire.
Right. No, that's a fair point. Would you do it? Would you kill Toby?
Yes. If the day was here and the goal hadn't been met, I would put Toby on this board and lop his head off.
So you would? You'd take Toby and you'd just kind of...
Yeah. And we'd eat him. That's right. And we'd eat him.
I didn't know what to think. Were these two big-eared men really heartless killers, or were they just clever hoaxers? There was only one way to find out, and it involved my constant travelling companion, Roger Thomas.
Ben, could you ask Roger Thomas to step in?
What's this guy?
This is Roger Thomas.
Hi, Roger.
Hello, Roger.
Kill the hamster. Kill the hamster. Kill Roger Thomas. Kill Roger Thomas.
We're not going to kill Roger Thomas. He's your friend. That's just cruelty.
Well, that makes me think that the whole Save Toby thing is even better. And what's more, I think you deserve to be in my top list. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Save Toby.
14 down, just 5 to go. I told you this wasn't just any list show. Do you have any idea what my number 1 will be? Well, I'll give you a clue. It's not this. In 1972, a Stone Age tribe was discovered living in the jungles of the Philippines. As the battles raged in Vietnam, the media found hope in these simple folk known as the Tassidae, who had no word for war and no trousers either. But when martial law was declared in 1974, the media was forced to leave them be. Cut to 1986 and the collapse of the Filipino government. A Swiss journalist returned to the jungle to find the Tassidae wearing Levi's and living in fancy cabins. Finally, they admitted it. They weren't a Stone Age tribe at all. They were just a load of blokes who'd been paid by the government to stand around and look simple. Tassidae remains the world's only government-sponsored hoax that we know of. He still looks simple. And at number 4 in my big book of hoaxes...
A personal hero of mine, America's most notorious hoaxer, Joey Skaggs. Now, Skaggs specialises in hoaxing the media and convincing them to report on made-up news stories.
A California priest has the answer for Catholics who don't have time to confess. He calls it Portafest.
I don't believe what we're looking at, a mobile confessional. Does anybody use it?
We figure if people can confess on Oprah and Geraldo and Donahue, they can confess in the privacy of the booth.
He's perfected the art of the ludicrous press release and brilliantly hoaxed nearly every major news network in the United States of Americans. I wanted to meet him.
But let's face it, Joey Skaggs didn't get to where he is today without being cautious to the point of paranoia. Before the great man would even consider granting me an interview, he demanded that I send him this, and Yeah, well, he didn't want this one, but I thought it was a shame not to show it to anyone. It's my wife. Finally, when Skaggs realised that I was serious about hoaxing, he agreed to meet me in New York.
Joey Skaggs, it is a pleasure to meet you. You are one of my hoaxing heroes.
Now, this man says he's Joey Skaggs. This is a picture of Joey Skaggs. They're similar, but the man on the right is an imposter. It turns out we're being hoaxed by Joey Skaggs. But guess what? I had a hunch he'd try something like this. He's got a history of it. So I thought I'd protect myself. That's not me doing the interview, that's my mate Ben in a pair of glasses. That's me pretending to be the sound man. Now, I've paid the restaurant staff to be especially noisy. I find it helps me get into character.
So what I thought I would do differently is create the Fat Squad, where I had an actual person, a Fat Squad commando, live with the person for 3 days. The contract runs for 3 days.
So I'll just tee that up again.
Take it from the top?
I'll lead you in. So
Okay.
Okay, we still... Doing it on purpose now.
Can I just do one
thing?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Can you give me one tip that will go towards its success? Something I really need to make this thing work?
Passion.
Passion.
Yeah.
Passion. A very good tip. Another good tip, of course, is remembering to look at the sound man and realising he looks just like the bloke in all the photos you were looking at this afternoon in a bar around the corner with the real Joey Skaggs. But that is quite a specific tip. Even if I say so myself, things had gone well. The fake Joey Skaggs believed the fake Danny Wallace was the real Danny Wallace, while the real Danny Wallace knew the fake Joey Skaggs was the fake Joey Skaggs, who knew what the real Joey Skaggs was thinking. But the fake Joey hadn't finished.
Hi, I'm Joey Skaggs.
No, you're not.
I've been doing hoaxes now for 40 years.
Well, no, your mate has, really.
And somewhat of a legend, maybe in my own mind.
Yes.
But nevertheless, known throughout the world. And appreciate the opportunity to come on this show.
And I'm more than happy to give it you. Nice. Maybe I was getting ahead of myself, but I felt like I'd just hoaxed the hoaxer's hoaxer. Was I now the hoaxer's hoaxer's hoaxer? I decided to phone the real Joey Skaggs and ask. He didn't take it well at first.
I have photographs of you.
You have photographs of me, that's correct, but then you sent your mate who hadn't seen those photos.
Yes, he has.
Yes, he has, exactly.
Of course.
I caught you out.
Congratulations.
Yes! Joey Skaggs, you've made me such a happy man. You are a hero and a legend, and I love the fact that actually you practice what you preach.
Danny, you're a great sport.
Thanks.
I really appreciate the call.
No problem, Joey. See you later, Joey.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Join me after the break to find out what are definitely and beyond all doubt the best 3 hoaxes in the world ever. According to me. Welcome back to my Hoax Files. High five. Yeah. And we're down to the top 3.
Number 3, a piece of footage which claims to prove beyond all doubt that alien life exists and that it came to visit us Earthlings. The footage came to light in the year 1995. It shows an autopsy being carried out on an alien, shot in 1947 by a mystery US military cameraman, who, almost 50 years later, finally showed it to a British film producer called Ray Santilli.
You know, we looked at it and it was just the most incredible piece of film, and yeah, obviously my first impression is this can't be real.
Santilli immediately did what anyone would do in his situation. He called Reg Presley, frontman of 1960s rock band The Troggs. It was something that would impress this dedicated researcher of the unexplained.
Reg, is it right that you were one of the first people to kind of see the alien autopsy footage?
Yeah, things about that film footage got to me. When they cut this guy, it was just like you get cut. It just stays there. You know, they have to part it and cut it another way to even fold it back. That's too good to be, you know, to be hoaxed. Because I've never seen anything that clever.
What about Aliens 3?
Aliens 3?
That's brilliant.
I haven't seen it.
You've got to see it, man.
Do you know what the strange thing is? I'm not into science fiction.
You're not at all?
No!
You want to see, they've come a long way since 47, I'll tell you
Really?
that.
Yeah. As soon as you have actually seen a UFO, everything becomes possible. And you know your government isn't going to tell you because they don't want you to be scared. I'm not scared. If one walked in this room now, I would not be scared.
I'd be bricking it.
I want to go home because I don't even think we're from here.
Really?
No.
From Andover?
From this planet. I don't think we're from here because, you know, if you have to go like this and the sun's in your eyes, no other animal on this planet has to do that. They've all adapted, and we haven't.
When Reg Presley says he's from another planet, I refuse to comment. But what about this alien? Is he really from another planet, or is he a hoax? To find out, I watched the footage frame by frame, along with bald UFO researcher Andy Roberts.
Now, Andy, having seen that film, and I think we can be frank with one another, that's rubbish.
It's absolute rubbish.
It is a bit rubbish, isn't it?
It's rubbish on a stick, yeah.
This is the actual alien autopsy footage. Andy gives 3 reasons why the footage is a hoax. Firstly, pathologists have told him that an autopsy simply wouldn't happen this way. Special effects people have told him they could create the same effect for a few £1,000s. We did it for 50. And finally, no one's been able to find the man who filmed it.
But that just makes it all the better, doesn't it? Because this is something that hoaxed the world.
Yes, it does. It's ufology's equivalent to the Blair Witch Project. It's just a dodgy film that's frightened the hell out of people, and they want to believe it's true. And, you know, Ray Santilli is a master craftsman as a hoaxer.
Santilli's masterstroke was to invite the biggest names in British ufology to London for a select screening before the footage had even been released. They came, they saw, they believed.
Then after that, the word-of-mouth virus really spread the story, so that when it was, when the deal with Fox TV was done, people were ready for it, and there was a market there, the media were ready for it, and it was like a feeding frenzy.
So it had been hyped and hyped and
Absolutely,
hyped
yeah.
and publicised and hyped and hyped and hyped and publicised and hyped, like a 90s version of Hearsay.
Yes.
And then, when it was released, it still was this massive success, despite the fact that it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And buy it they did. Fox TV first, reputedly for $1 million. It was then released on VHS, selling hundreds of thousands of copies, making Santilli a fortune. But this isn't Santilli's only money-spinning venture. Before he created this, Santilli created something far more sinister. In 1991, the Birdie song sold 6 million copies worldwide. There's a grown man in that bird suit, and his name is Ray Santilli.
I love it. I think it's brilliant because an entire world has sprung up around it. And yet, if you look at it, it's rubbish. Look at that. That is rubbish. So that is why I think Santilli is a bit of a hoaxing genius. And that is why it's on my list.
Absolutely.
So, Reg Presley, in a word, hoax or not?
Not a hoax.
That's 3 words.
That's 2, yeah. Well, what can I say?
Well, you could say yes or no. Yeah, no will do.
No, I didn't.
No, no. Which brings us to my favourite April Fool's Day hoax of all time. The year was 1952. The telly was black and white. The hoaxer was Richard Dimbleby.
It isn't only in Britain that spring this year has taken everyone by surprise. Here, in the Ticino, on the borders of Switzerland and Italy, the slopes overlooking Lake Lugano have already burst into flower, at least a fortnight earlier than usual. But what, you may ask, has the early and welcome arrival of bees and blossom to do with food? Well, it's simply that the past winter, one of the mildest in living memory, has had its effect in other ways as well. Most important of all, it's resulted in an exceptionally heavy spaghetti crop. The last 2 weeks of March are an anxious time for the spaghetti farmer.
Yes, the BBC, the most trusted organisation in the world, declared that spaghetti grew on trees. They received hundreds of calls from viewers, many wanting to know how they could grow their own spaghetti trees.
Now these dangers are over.
Brilliantly, the BBC replied, saying they should take a sprig of spaghetti, stick it in a jam jar, add some tomato sauce, and hope for the best.
I have a love for that so deep it frightens me at night. But before I reveal the one thing I think is even better than made-up spaghetti trees, there's just enough time to remind ourselves of the rest of the list. Let's have a cheesy rundown.
Number 19. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Well, it's not a monster. At 18, take that! It's the fictional artist Nat Tate. At 17, it's got hidden depths. The Aussie iceberg. Number 16, pass the burger on the left-hand side. It's the brilliant left-handed Whopper. What's up, Doc? Number 15 is rabbits up a woman. Number 14 is the non-sweating but still quite sticky marathon runner Rosie Ruiz. At 13, the missing link that should have stayed lost, Piltdown Man. Greatest hoax number 12, all ghosts. You heard me. It'll take a lot to fill this guy's boots. Number 11 is Bigfoot. Jesus Christ, superstar! It's the Turin Shroud at number 10. Tinkerbell is dead. The Cottingley Fairies are our number 9. The modern-day Merlin, Derren Brown, is in at number 8 without a bullet. Number 7, tiny horses, woo, woo. Number 6, it's St. Toby. It's true, read it on the internet. That's me. And number 5, it's the Tassidae. They're a modern-day Stone Age family. Very modern day. He's the hoaxer's hoaxer. It's Joey Skaggs at number 4. That's not him. At number 3, the alien autopsy. Come on, it's some men in the shed. At number 2, Panorama's tasty spaghetti harvests.
But at number 1, I had to include something that embodies the spirit of hoaxing, of having fun while tricking the world. And this next hoax has both those things in abundance. 2 old fellas, best friends, going down the local pub every Friday night and hatching a plan that would make news headlines across the world for decades and convince millions of people beyond all doubt that aliens definitely exist and they're talking to us through corn. Right, so I'm about to meet a man named Doug. Now, Doug is brilliant because it was in this pub years ago with his best mate over a few pints that Doug came up with a hoax that would trick the world for years. And before you ask, that is not my car. Doug, I'm Danny.
Nice to meet you, Danny.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
It's a real pleasure to meet you.
Got a drink?
I have, yeah, I got it in the doorway there. Listen, it's a massive pleasure to meet you. You're a hoaxing hero. You're a legend of the world.
It's army.
Yeah, it's top class, grade A, proper hoaxery is what we're talking about. My list of the world's best ever hoaxes would be far poorer without the slightly drunken, pub-based hoaxery of you and your best mate.
Top of the crops.
Top of the crops, exactly, because we're talking crop circles.
Yeah.
That's right. That man there, Doug Bauer, is the crop father, the brains behind the greatest hoax the world has ever known. Doug and his mate Dave began making crop circles in 1978. For 14 years, their creations transfixed the world. Tourists flocked to Wiltshire from Japan and the US to savour them and bathe in their mystical energies, which didn't exist. Even when Doug and Dave came clean in 1991, crop circle devotees refused to